Hello and welcome to another episode of WP Sports Desk on WPTV6. I'm Mason Mills, and with me are the best in the business to help me break down this week in sports. This week we've got Wyatt Cal bringing us the NBA as well as an update on our very own Pioneers, Chris Turner DeMundo bringing us soccer, and Mike Riggy bringing you your WP Sports update. Let's get started. Wyatt, tell us about basketball this week.
Well, we had a lot of interesting local basketball to talk about. Men's and women's basketball here at William Paterson both saw their seasons end in the NJAC playoffs, and also we'll be talking some Brooklyn and New York Knicks basketball.
Good stuff. Chris, what's happening on the pitch with soccer this week?
Well, Champions League football, the best team in the world, Barcelona, traveled to play Arsenal. We'll find out, did Barcelona pull through? Will they take the advantage into the second leg?
Looking forward to it. Riggy, tell us about the Pioneers.
The WPU men's basketball team season ended Saturday with a loss to Rutgers Newark in the NJAEC tournament. Senior Bright Mensah and the team with 13 points, and Tariq Bridgman with 12 points and 15 rebounds. The women's side sported an overtime victory over Keene University. Brittany Harden had a career-high 26 points and 8 assists. Alex Milne scored 21 points and contributed 13 rebounds. However, their season ended with a second-round loss to Montclair State. Jackie Rodriguez put up 16 points, and Alex Milne added 15 points and 7 rebounds. And finally, the WPU men's hockey team has won the 2016 SECHL Championship this weekend, beating rivals NYU 2-1. Sean LaCourte scored a shorthanded goal to tie the game and up in the third, and Adam Apadopoulos scored the game-winning goal to lead the Pioneers to victory. Senior Gary Shopler stopped 25 shots to get the victory. Congratulations to the team for an amazing season, and good luck to them in Nationals.
Now, Riggy, you had the pleasurable experience of actually being there, doing the stats for most of the games. Tell us, what was it like being that close to the action?
Well, I mean, I've been doing the stats for the team this entire year now, and it was a really nice feeling to see this team after so much work this season to finally get that championship again after 2 long years of hard work and only second-round defeats.
Excellent. Well, good luck to the hockey team. And after the break, we will catch up with Wyatt and the basketball crew to break down the NBA. Stay tuned. Welcome back to WP Sports Desk. I'm Mason Mills, joined alongside Justin McHugh, Wyatt Calvin, Stephen Lantigua. We're here to talk tonight about local NBA basketball. The Knicks and the Nets both had big games this week. We'll pick it up in Portland at the Moda Center. Wyatt?
Yeah, in Portland, or as we basketball fans like to call it, Rip City. So here's Damian Lillard, been one of, if not the best player in the NBA this past month, as we see CJ McCollum, his PIC partner in crime, knocked down a 3 from the corner. Portland jumped out to an early lead, Justin.
Oh, yeah. The backcourt of CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard has been one of the best in the NBA as they're combined to average about 46 points a game, with Damian Lillard coming in at 25 points a game and CJ coming in at 21.
And as we see here, my man Belo putting it in. He had a big night, had himself 36 and 11, brought the Nets all the way back. They had a chance to take the lead as Lopez with a spin in a lane. That's a man's move right there, right throughout the center of the paint. Brook Lopez was an absolute force, and his old teammate Mason Plumlee could not stop him. As we see, C.J. McCollum going to knock it down, 93-93 with 6:30 left. Good game as Portland has won 9 in a row up until this point, as Brook Lopez with the and one puts it in, and Brooklyn ended up taking a 6-point lead. But that would not stop Portland as Shane Larkin turns the ball over and Damian Lillard's going to get the ball out in space, dunk it, and Portland, up until this point, really would not look back as they went up 101-99. Joe Johnson with his last bucket as a net. We'll get to that soon. But other than that, that was the final points. Nets would score all game. Portland would go on to win this game with a 3-ball, corner pocket, C.J. McCollum, and then Damian Lillard sealing the deal. That would end it in Portland. They would go on to win 110-101. Still a good night from Brook Lopez, but the last game Joe Johnson will ever play as a net.
Now, the Trailblazers have been one of the hottest teams this past few weeks. What does the playoff picture look for them?
You know, I think a playoff picture looks really well. I mean, in these playoffs, you're going to need two guys who can really step up, and that's what McCollum and Damian Lillard have been doing. I mean, Damian Lillard, already a perennial superstar in this league, CJ McCollum, really trying to make a name for himself. I mean, putting up 20 a game. If they can get a lot from their other role players, if Mason Plumlee isn't much of a free throw shooting liability like he was for the Nets down the stretch in the playoffs, Portland team could be a little scary.
Yeah, I definitely think that McCollum and Lillard are definitely one of the best backcourts in the league other than Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. But they can definitely slide into that 6th, 7th, or 8th seed with the way they're going now.
Justin?
Yeah, I have to agree. Not often do you see an NBA team find a way to make two guards that are both volume scorers work together, and they've done a really solid job of making that happen. I'm curious to see if this is a sustainable advantage for the Portland Trailblazers once they get, as I said, averaging 46 points a game combined. They both shoot a lot, but they're really getting the job done.
Now, Wyatt, as a Nets fan, I know you are deeply saddened by the loss of Joe Johnson. Before the show, we were talks about him possibly going to the Heat, also taking his talents to South Beach. What does the loss of Joe Johnson mean here?
Well, with the loss of two major things in my life yesterday, I lost my beard and I lost Joe Johnson. And those are two things I've lived with for the past 3 years, which have been such key components, I'm telling you. Joe Johnson, one of the more clutch players in the NBA. As I looked up the stat, hit more game-winning or tying shots in the final 2 minutes of the game than anybody. That includes LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry in the past 3 years with the Nets. Joe Johnson, a 7-time All-Star, borderline Hall of Famer. You'd like to see him go somewhere, maybe win a championship, at least get to a championship. The guy's never made it past the second round of the playoffs. I mean, you'd want to see that for Joe Johnson.
Steve, what does this mean for the Nets moving forward?
Definitely they lose one of their best scorers that they've had in a while. Now, with the game they had last night against the Phoenix Suns, you can see that they can still win those games, even though when you have Bojan Bogdanovic scoring 24, you got Thaddeus Young and Brook Lopez putting in their points. So they're definitely capable of winning, even without that number one top scorer.
Justin, what do you think?
You know, I think it's just the beginning of roster turnover. Right now, the Brooklyn Nets are in a predicament where they need to really improve the roster for the future and try to get some assets on the team. And Joe Johnson possibly turn over with the rest of the roster. I think it's just the start of something for the Nets in general.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was a really big move. I think that what you had to do, you weren't going to trade him at the deadline and get anything from him with the new GM, Sean Marks. I think by buying him out, saving about $6-7 million in cap space for next year, you can go out and maybe sign a Harrison Barnes, maybe sign a Ryan Anderson back to the Nets. These are the kind of things Sean Marks is already doing. And by buying out Joe Johnson, I know it's an emotional loss as a Nets fan. You're really not going to get much out of an aging 35-year-old Johnson when you're 16 and 40 at the end of the season. I mean, it really doesn't matter. So Sean Marks really did the most of what he could with this team.
Right. Well, regardless, he will be deeply missed in Brooklyn. And also this week, the Knicks took on the Pacers, and Wyatt has the call as well.
Well, this was a fun one for me as the Knicks took on the Pacers in Indiana as the Pacers wore their great hickory jerseys as Paul George with the shot, tying the ball game up. Knicks and Pacers have had some memorable games in the past few years as Paul George puts his man on skates up and in. Justin, Paul George was a force in this game.
You know, I can't help but be happy as a basketball fan, as an NBA fan. I cannot help but be happy for Paul George after coming off a gruesome leg injury. You don't see injuries like that happen often, and it's great to see Paul George bounce back like that.
Yeah, and as we saw, the other superstar, Carmelo Anthony, hit only one of his 5 shots. He went 5 for 20 as Miles Turner comes and knocks it down. Texas product. Now Indiana up by 4, trying to put this game away. At the top of the key is George Hill. Over to Paul George in the middle. And Paul George from the corner going to put this one in with 1:19 left on the clock. 107-101. But this game was far from over as the Knicks would come back. Kristaps Porzingis had a chance to tie it up at the end of the game, rimmed in and out, and the final score 108-105 in Indiana, Mason.
So the Knicks have been one of the worst teams in the league. Why is that? What's going on in New York?
I mean, I just can't even but not crack a smile when you say that, as the Knicks were one of the favored teams to make it into the playoffs early this year with the addition of Kristaps Porzingis and Phil Jackson. So much is going wrong. They had to fire Derek Fisher. They bring in a new coach. I mean, there's Kurt Rambis, who has really had no coaching success whatsoever. He's not going to be the coach going forward. A lot they want to get rid of Carmelo Anthony, Phil Jackson. I mean, there's just so much going wrong in New York right now that they really have to find something.
Yeah, I definitely think they need to figure out that point guard position because they have all the other positions filled out. You have Aaron Aflalo at the 2, you have Carmelo at the 3, Kristaps at the 4, Lopez at the 5. But Calderon, I don't think he's capable of filling that consistent point guard spot, and then they have to fill that coaching void that they've been having all season.
Justin, wrap it up for us. What do the Knicks need to do moving forward here?
Well, bottom line, they're in a rough time right now. They're 1-8 in the month of February. The Kristaps hype is worn off. The team has a lot of glaring issues, and they have too many off-the-court issues to balance out with the on-court poor play. So they need to figure themselves out, and it's going to take a little time to fix that.
Excellent. Thanks, boys. We'll have to see moving forward what's going on in New York. And that's all the time we have for basketball. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll hit the pitch with Chris and Philip. Welcome back to the desk. I'm joined here by Philip and Chris to break down some Champions League soccer. This past week, we saw a battle when Barcelona took to the Emiratis to face off with Arsenal. Chris, break down the game for us.
Well, Mason, if you look at the stats, it was really a one-sided, dominant performance by Barcelona. We saw them dominate possession. We saw Arsenal struggle to hold on to the ball, but they really played a well game. If you take a look at the stats right up here, Barcelona taking the 2-0 win, dominating shots 10-3, possession 66% to Arsenal's 34. And look at the corners, 7 corners for Barcelona, 1 corner for Arsenal. It's crazy to think that Arsenal actually played a pretty impressive game, and you look at the stats and you'd think it was an absolute blowout.
Right, Philip, you look here at the stats, pretty one-sided. What went wrong for the Gunners at home?
Well, personally, I can't really say anything went wrong. Like, Arsenal played the best game they really could against Barcelona. Barcelona was just so good right now. They couldn't have played much better. Those 3 shots that they had were all on target, and Barcelona was lucky enough that Ter Stegen managed to save all those.
Mm-hmm. Chris, talk about Arsenal's chances of making a comeback. Who really has to step up and lead the way?
Well, a big factor is Piqué is out for the next game because he got a yellow card. So there's 2 key players in Arsenal's attack that they need to use wisely when they travel to Barcelona, and that is Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez. We take a look at their stats in the Champions League. Ozil playing 7 games with 2 goals and 0 assists. That is the big hole on this stat sheet. He has 17 assists in the Premier League and a goose egg in Champions League. He's supposed to be the main provider, while Sanchez has 6 goals, 3 goals in 6 games with 4 assists. That should be Ozil's stat. He should be around the 4 assists. That's the main problem. He needs to dish the ball out to guys like Sanchez and guys like Giroud and supply the goals if they have any chance at winning this game.
Philip?
Yeah, if you look back in the Premier League, Ozil's the best midfielder there. He's obviously a world-class player. And the last game they played in the first leg, the main thing that Arsenal was getting on their attack was they were fighting off counterattacks. And they really need to work on that again. You know, they need to push their forwards up more. They had all their defenders back, which was great for most part. The first half they played excellently, and those 2 players, Sanchez and Ozil, are going to be key players for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, Chris, stopping Lionel Messi is no easy task, and he was clearly the main troublemaker for Arsenal. What do they need to do? Can they make a stop?
It's going to be tough. King Leo is a monster. In 4 goals, he has 5 games, 1 assist, and 24 shots. That's correct. 24 shots in only 4 games. This is why he's debatably the best player in the world. Called King Leo for a reason. You can't really get upset when you see a 2-0 loss and both goals come from Lionel Messi, but it's just too tough to stop him, let alone the rest of the lineup.
Philip, is there any stopping this guy?
Lionel Messi is the most unstoppable player in the world. Not only is he a great offensive, a good forward, he also, last game, he played a lot in the midfield, and he was passing the ball great. Like, that's what Barcelona is known for the most, is their passing. They play possession so well, and Lionel Messi is definitely the leader of that passing.
Mm-hmm. Now, Barcelona, we got 1 win. If we look at the stats, it's pretty one-sided. Do we see the chances of a repeat here, Chris?
Absolutely. We're talking about the best team in the world. You show very little flaws. We saw Arsenal maybe could have taken advantage here or there, but we're talking about a team who's dominant. They have a chance at repeating the treble. That is almost unheard of. This is a ridiculous lineup. We're witnessing history right now with this team.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
We haven't seen a Champions League repeat in over 35 years, and Barcelona is definitely a contender to do that. I'd actually be surprised if they didn't win Champions League this year. They're already basically going to win the other 2 competitions to seal that treble, but as long as they keep playing as well as they are right now, they're definitely my favorite to win the Champions League.
Okay, excellent. Chris, let's throw another one at you. Which team has the best chance of beating Barcelona? Again, no easy task in itself.
It is a difficult task, but there's two top teams that come to my mind right away. Their biggest rival, Real Madrid and FC Bayern. Madrid's got 6 wins in 7 of their games, drawing 1 and an impressive 21 goals. We saw Bayern 5 wins with 1 loss and 1 draw, but they also have 21 goals. We see an amazing strike force from both of these teams they represent, and also Cristiano Ronaldo. We know when Barcelona plays against Real Madrid, it's always exciting, but the fact that Barcelona beat them 4-0 at home and Real Madrid is still the best available option to beat Barcelona is mind-blowing.
Right, blowing out them at home, no easy task in itself. Philip, what do you think?
I'd say these are definitely the 2 teams that are favorites to win, if not Barcelona. You know, Bayern made it to the semifinals last season. They played Barcelona, and they only lost by one point in aggregate. So to me, they're the best team besides Barcelona to win. Real Madrid obviously is always a contender to win Champions League, but them being blown out 4-0 at home in the same season is definitely something that makes me think they might not be able to beat Barcelona again.
Now, Chris, let's wrap up here. Which team is your dark horse this year? Go for it.
My dark horse, they're leading in their league, in the French league. It's Paris Saint-Germain. 5 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 14 goals. Their 1 loss did come to Real Madrid. This is a team we always see that make it to the round of 16, round of 8, but they're yet to finish. They're yet to finish. This is a team that can finish, led by Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He needs to step up, take that leadership role, and lead this team to get a chance at winning it all.
Philip?
My dark horse might be Juventus. They won their group stage. They came out first. They beat Manchester City twice, which is also another heavyweight in the Champions League, also a contender. And even though they lost 2 of their key players with Pirlo and Tevez last season, they have Pogba stepping up, becoming one of the best midfielders in the world at such a young age. Chiellini's having a great season as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up making some noise. They made it to the finals last year, and I think they could make it to the semis again.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. That'll do it. Stay tuned, because when we come back, we're talking Pioneer Sports. Stay with us. Welcome to the final segment here on Sports Desk. We're talking William Paterson basketball as the men and women had key NJAC playoff games this week. The women were in Kane last Saturday. We'll pick it up there with Wyatt.
Well, we're going to go here to Kane, where me and my fellow comrade Dylan Burns, who is not here today, had the pleasure of calling this game. It was one of the most amazing games we've seen. Nicole Williams drive the lane and won. She had one of her more impressive games. She saw a lot more minutes in the final 2 games than she did all season. As Jackie Rodriguez, who had one of her best games here today. We'll take it there. Justin, this William Paterson team was more resilient than ever that day.
Yeah, no doubt. And just to foreshadow a little bit, big shout out to Big Shot Rod. One of the key components of the season so far. She really came on into her own as of late, and she's only a sophomore. So we're going to see a lot of Jackie Rodriguez in the next few years.
And as we see that inside passing with Alex Milne and Tori Wetzel, something that became so relevant towards the end of that season, as Brittany Harden's going to get the steal, and Alex Milne, who had 23 points, 13 rebounds, an absolute monster in that paint. Her senior season was ended against Montclair State. We'll get to that later as Alex Milne hit that bucket. Down the stretch here, Pioneers were down by 6 late in the game, but fought back with a vengeance. Alex Milne and Tori Wetzel and Brittany Harden. Brittany Harden, who puts her girl on skates, and Maraja Bacon, who is most likely going to win NJAC Player of the Year, Mason and Justin. That was just incredible. And as we see the game going into its later moments, Brittany Harden with another steal. It got more and more exciting as the time went on, going back and forth to see a nice feed inside the Milne. And with the Pioneers down by 3, we're going to see soon as they get the ball into Jackie Rodriguez from the corner, 3-ball, corner pocket. And J-Rod, as you said, tied the game up. It got sent into overtime. And then it was just the Brittany Harden show from there. We see an and one. She couldn't be stopped, and a block from Alex Milne. Harden and Milne fought back with 27 points, 23 points, as two girls on Kane, Maraja Bacon and Jaquetta Owens, both had 40 and 29. I mean, two of the best players I have ever seen at that level. but the Pioneers pulled out a win at Kane last Saturday in very dramatic fashion.
Right, hard to beat a team when you got players putting up points and still not coming up with the win. So let's talk about what the Lady Pioneers had to do to get that win. You were there in person. Tell me what you saw.
Well, me and Dylan got to talk to Coach Monahan after the game, and what she pretty much told us is we're going to try to stop Maraja Bacon and Jaquetta Owens, and we're not going to let anyone else beat us. And you know what? You couldn't stop Maraja Bacon, but they didn't let anyone else beat them. Like Coach Monahan said, I mean, they doubled Bacon on the outside. They doubled her sister, Maisha Bacon. Jaquetta Owens couldn't drive the lane. She couldn't get her threes up at the end of that game. They had to take a lot of shots to get to those kind of points. And Alex Milne had a couple of big rebounds toward the end of that stretch. Brittany Harden, Showtime, as Dylan likes to call her, driving the lane, had a bunch of big crossover moves. No one could guard her. She scored 27, and she did not have a lot of shots to get there. That was a big game and a very good coaching by Coach Monahan.
You know, Justin, we saw the key players like Harden and Milne just putting their players on skates and putting on a show. What else were some contributing factors that gave them this win?
It had to be Jack Rodriguez. Milne and Harden both had 20 apiece, and then Jack Rodriguez coming in as the third leading scorer with 17, and a huge defensive game for her fellow senior Nicole Williams. She was all over the court, constantly causing problems for that Kane Cougar team. And like Monahan was saying, if anyone's going to beat us, it can't be Bacon. And as she was saying, if Bacon's going to score 50, then fine. As long as we get a win, that's all that matters. And that's what happened. They came out on top, and they came out of the gates really coming out on top. I thought it was going to be a blowout victory for the Pioneers. They were leading 26-12 at one point. But Bacon and the Cougars, they fought back, and they were down 2 at halftime. And then Monahan decided to employ that full court press at halftime coming out. And it's something we didn't see in the first half, and they did a really good job of controlling the pace.
Now, guys, they had a lot of momentum going into their game against Montclair on Tuesday, but that was not enough. Tell me what happened there.
Well, they played the Route 46 rivals, and this is a Montclair State team that was number 4 in the nation last year. They made it to the Final Four. They lost a couple girls, but still, obviously, they didn't lose enough for the Pioneers to go into Montclair and win this game. To win a couple of road games in the NJAC in this playoffs is very hard to do. And what Montclair State did is they said, we are not going to let Jackie Rodriguez shoot this basketball. And they doubled her. They even tripled her sometimes on the outside. They put their best girls on her. Brittany Harden couldn't get anything to fall in that second half. Alex Milne, although she put up 16 points in that first half, she was coming out firing all cylinders. That second half was not kind to her as Montclair State got it out in their 2-2-1 press, and they did not let William Paterson get anything going towards the middle of that basket.
Justin, what happened Tuesday?
Once again, the Pioneers, they jump out to an 11-0 lead, looking like they're coming out with some commanding presence, this Pioneer team. It's something they've been able to do all season long, finishing well above 500. They've done a pretty good job of controlling teams on the defensive end all season long, but the one team they struggle with is Montclair State. They lost their previous 2 matchups coming into the season with them, and overall, the Montclair State had the number. Montclair State is a very good basketball team, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NJAC between men's and women's. They shoot a few ticks below 40%, and Montclair State was right around that average. And William Paterson, just to put in retrospect, is the average three-point shooting team, shooting about 32%.
Right.
So that 6th percentile increase shows to be, the proving factor for Montclair, as they'll be playing Rowan, I believe, tonight in the NJAC Championship. By the time everyone will be seeing this, the game will be over. But those will be the 2 teams tonight.
Okay, Wyatt, wrap up for us. We got about a minute left. The men fell to Rutgers Newark on Saturday. So tell me about that.
That was a little easier to talk about. William Paterson just did not have enough going for him. I mean, with no Coach Jose, no Dapo Badmos, no James McLean, they just did not have enough firepower to compete against Jordan McDaniels and John Snow of Montclair State. I mean, Tariq Bridgman was putting up big rebounding numbers, couldn't score the basketball like he usually does. Bright Mensa didn't really do a good job on Jordan McDaniels. And, the Pioneers really did not have enough scoring to compete with a high-powered Rutgers Newark team that went 19-6 and was very good in the NJAC.
And, just to finish up, Tariq Bridgman, he did put up great numbers. He had 15 points or something like that, but I do believe he's on double-digit shots, and that's just not going to cut it. But Tariq Bridgman is looking to have a fantastic career post-college. I did get a chance to talk to him a little bit. He's already looking at some overseas clubs. So we're excited as far as the William Paterson faithful are to see what he's going to be doing after college.
Gotcha. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. That's all the time we have. Thanks, Wyatt and Justin, the rest of our analysts and producers. Thank you to our whole crew and to our studio manager, Al Clark. I'm Mason Mills signing off from Studio B in Hobart Hall. We'll see you same time, same place next week.